Once upon a time in the land of Egypt, there lived a young girl named Miriam. She was the older sister of a boy named Moses, who would grow up to be one of the most famous leaders in history. But at the time, no one knew that Moses was special. Miriam was just an ordinary girl, but her life would become anything but ordinary. When Miriam was a child, there was a great problem in Egypt. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had ordered that all the baby boys born to the Israelites be thrown into the Nile River. This was because Pharaoh was afraid the Israelites were growing too powerful and might overthrow him. Miriam's mother, Jochebed, had just given birth to Moses. She didn't want her baby to be thrown into the river, so she made a plan to protect him. Miriam was very brave. She watched over her baby brother as he lay in a basket, floating gently in the Nile River. She hid in the reeds, hoping no one would see her or the basket. She knew that if anyone found Moses, they would either throw him in the river or send him to live a life of slavery. Her heart raced as she waited for something to happen. Then, something incredible happened. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to the river to bathe. When she saw the basket with Moses inside, she sent one of her servants to bring it to her. The princess opened the basket and found the baby. She immediately knew this was a Hebrew baby, but she had compassion. Miriam, who had been watching the whole time, quickly ran up to her. She offered to find a nurse for the baby, and, of course, Pharaoh's daughter agreed. Miriam raced back home to tell her mother the good news. Jochebed was able to nurse her own child and take care of him until he was old enough to live in the palace. Miriam's quick thinking saved her brother's life. As Moses grew older, Miriam grew with him. She watched as he became a great leader, even though it took time for him to realize his calling. The people of Israel were still slaves in Egypt, working hard for Pharaoh, and Moses knew something had to be done. He left Egypt and went into the wilderness for many years, unsure of his future. Miriam's life wasn't easy, but she always had faith that God would do something amazing for her people. Then, one day, Moses returned to Egypt. He came back with a mission. God had chosen him to lead the Israelites out of slavery. Moses went to Pharaoh and demanded that he let God's people go. But Pharaoh wasn't easily convinced. In fact, he refused and made life even harder for the Israelites. Miriam must have been worried and frustrated, but she never lost hope. After many long months and many plagues sent by God, Pharaoh finally agreed to let the Israelites go. Miriam was there with her people, ready to follow Moses out of Egypt. They crossed the Red Sea, and when the Egyptian army tried to chase them, God parted the waters so the Israelites could walk through on dry land. When the Israelites were safe on the other side, the waters crashed down on Pharaoh's army, and they were drowned. After that great victory, Miriam led the women in a song of praise to God. She played the tambourine, and the women danced, rejoicing in God's power and faithfulness. It was a moment of pure joy. Miriam was not just a sister to Moses, but also a leader among the women of Israel. She was known for her courage, her faith, and her song. However, Miriam's journey wasn't without struggles. There was a time when she, along with her brother Aaron, spoke against Moses. They questioned his leadership and even criticized his decision to marry a Cushite woman. But God didn't take kindly to their disrespect. Miriam was struck with leprosy, a horrible skin disease, and she had to be separated from the people for 7 days. During that time, Moses prayed for her, and God healed her. Miriam learned an important lesson about humility and respect for God's chosen leaders. Miriam continued to lead the Israelites as they traveled through the desert. She helped guide her people with wisdom and strength. But as the years went on, the Israelites faced many more challenges. Miriam's life came to an end during their journey. She passed away in the desert, and the people mourned her deeply. She had been a leader, a prophetess, and a protector of her people. Her role in Israel's history was unforgettable. Miriam's life teaches us many important lessons. She was brave when it mattered most, quick thinking when her family needed help, and she never lost faith in God's plan. Her journey was not always easy, but she kept her heart full of hope. From protecting her brother to leading the people in song, Miriam played a huge part in God's story. Her legacy lives on as a woman who loved God and his people with all her heart. And so, the story of Miriam reminds us that sometimes it's the quiet, faithful actions of those around us that make the biggest difference. Even when things seem impossible, faith, courage, and a heart full of worship can change the world.